We all know that the world is in a very serious environmental crisis today. We also know that we are in a great hurry. We do not have too much time to think and change the strategies. We have probably decades of time. We do not have centuries of time. So I begin with that. I think the first thing what we should do is to change the attitude towards the planet and towards the world. We should think that the planet is sick, planet is a patient, and a human being, mankind, is the disease. We should no more be the disease, we should be the doctor. And this is why I will present to you first 3 different strategies which can be realized simultaneously, and I take as comparison healthcare. The first strategy should begin very quickly, and it cannot last for a long time. I would call that as a first aid of this sickness. We have immense resources on the earth. We have all the armies. And the army's costs are about $1,500 billion per year. $1,500 billion. And all that is, the goal of that money is to destroy, to kill. Destroy other armies, destroy and kill other people, other cities and so on. So my first proposal, my first suggestion here is we should join the armies. We should declare a new war, but not between the armies, not one army against another army, but we should declare a defensive war, how we should take care of the dangers of the future. In this way, we could give to the armies tasks, and the armies are good because they obey the tasks. The armies are also good that they don't protest, they are not democratic, they do what they are told to do. And if we give to the armies the task, for example, reforest Sahara, so that what seems to be impossible becomes possible. Because the reforestation of Sahara, that costs about 1/6 of the money of the resources what is used today to these armies. So my first aid is join the armies, declare a new kind of war. Then comes as the next step, usual health care. We have a wrong kind of production. We produce things and we do not plan, we do not make the design work properly in the way as in the speech earlier was presented. So we need a new kind of industrial revolution. And that revolution must change all the different parts of the production and of the consumption at the same time. It has to change the traffic. We cannot use the cars anymore. It has to change the energy production. The energy production can no more have emissions of CO2 to the atmosphere. The land use must be renewed so that we have food produced very close to the places where the people live. And the whole production must be based on recycling. So all these different sectors of production must change. And how they can change? They can actually, in the best way, change by building so-called eco-cities, where in eco-cities all these different changes are taken into consideration simultaneously. Because there is no idea, for example, to produce an electric car if the electricity is produced in another place by burning coal and producing the CO2, having the CO2 emissions as before. So there has been a comprehensive change of everything. And if we design, if we plan new kind of cities, so all these are taken into consideration simultaneously. Another question is that when we plan the new cities, so we must take into consideration also the cities which exist. So cities like London, Paris, Beijing, Lagos in Africa, Mexico City in Mexico, and all these cities, they have to be changed also. And that is a much greater job than to build the new cities in the virgin environment. And we must have, in the same kind as we develop the strategy to build the new cities, where we take into consideration all these different things, energy, traffic, land use, and production. So we have to think over what shall we do to the cities where we are living today. So, for example, Paris must change. And that does not mean that we tear off the buildings of Paris or the streets, but the whole infrastructure must change totally. The system of traffic must change. There are no more cars. The change is similar as when they changed from horses to cars. To traffic systems which do not pollute the atmosphere. Energy production of Paris must change totally, and so on. So it is enough that the infrastructure of the old cities will change. Then the last one. Preventive cure. The preventive cure is the slowest of these three. The preventive cure is that we must change during the next generations totally the values what we have today. The values are too materialistic. We must renew the values. We must have more spiritual values. We must appreciate different things than we appreciate today. A big car is ridiculous, for example. You do not waste. You use your objects until to the end, in the way as, I don't remember your name, sorry, but anyhow, as was presented earlier. Okay, so that is the main question, actually. But I don't believe that that can be changed during the next years or even during the next 20 years. But it absolutely can be changed by the generations. The generations will change their values. And then we are having a very good background to the other two strategies what I proposed here. The first one is from grassroots upwards. That is what everybody can do individually. Individually, everybody can do so that they consider their consumption manners, and that is already something. I must confess that I am a criminal. Yes, yeah, criminal. Criminal speaking to you. I drive a car daily, you know. I eat meat, you know, from an animal. I have more than 2 children. That is the worst thing. And I have more than 2 pairs of shoes. Can you imagine? More than 2 pairs of shoes. So from grassroots upwards, I am not in the position to give you any advice. The other one is that we try to influence the powerful people to change their minds by discussing with them, by teaching them, because they are not the most intelligent people, the most powerful people. Teaching them how they should actually change the world. And because I do not have, I cannot boast, I was told how to speak, how not to speak, what to speak, and what not to speak. So I got very, very strict instructions here. So I am not telling anything about myself. I tell about Mr. Somebody who has done something, Mr. Somebody. The first thing was in 1980 when Mr. Somebody and his friend decided in a pub in Helsinki that the Islamic architecture must remain somehow in the world. Because the Arabic countries have got then oil, money, and they wanted to employ all the Western planners and all the Western constructors to change their cities, and that seems to be the destruction of the Islamic architecture. After 6 months, After 6 months, when Mr. Somebody and his friends were sitting in the pub in Helsinki and talking about that, there was arranged in Baghdad a big conference with very high officials from all Arabic countries talking about the theme how to preserve the Islamic architecture. There was a guy whose name was Saddam Hussein. And he was the president that time, a young, handsome guy. He was the president of Iraq that time. And he came every day to the conference, and he opened the whole conference and spoke very wisely, because he had got good instructions from Mr. Somebody. Yeah, and then the conference was over, took 2 days, and Mr. Saddam Hussein began a war against Iran. And then everything went, as you know, from the history. But a seed was cultivated anyhow. All those high officials in different Arabic countries went home, and they began to think this over. Next case. The Finnish parliamentarians are similar as the parliamentarians in different other countries. They think 4 years forward to the next election. And that is a pity, because they should think more forwards, decades forwards. And in this, for this reason, there was created a new committee in the Finnish parliament, and that was the first in the world. And it is now an official part of the Finnish parliament, and that committee has as its task only to think about long-term future questions. Now again a problem. A problem is that the legislation, the everyday legislation, does not follow those long-term visions what the future committee has. But that will also probably change. Number 3, development aid in Africa has been criticized a long, long time. That's why Mr. Somebody made about 20 trips to sub-Saharan Africa, wrote a book about those trips, and came to a conclusion, what should be done with Africa. And now I ask you, what of the 4 issues is most important? Environment? No. Education? Hands up if you think so. Family planning? Government? Okay. Now it says, I have to go to the last one. China is the next one. In China, they have begun to build eco-cities. The eco-cities combine all the new technology. That is the first step to the new kind of production. But even there, they make too much compromises. The compromises somehow diminish the value of these cities. But anyhow, that again is one step forwards. That seems to be so that we have the dreams, then we have 2 steps forwards, then comes the reality, and we get 1 step backwards. But anyhow, the sum is 1 step forward. Remember that. Thank you.